of the next stage called marriage. And so too, the Jewish people, when we stood at Mount Sinai, when we were there at Har Sinai, that was the wedding day. But what happens next? We get married. And now the marriage begins. What that means, for example, as somebody mentioned beautifully, I heard from Rabbi Melech Biderman said, when you look at a chasna and you see people at the wedding, everybody's dressed smart and they're dancing. So who's the chassan, as we say? How can you recognize who's the groom? Who's the chatan? The answer, the one that leaves the wedding hall with the kala. The one that leaves with the kala, he walks out with the girl with the white dress, he's the chassan, he's the groom. Meaning, at Matan Torah, who's the person that walks away from the wedding? Who's the chatan? If we walk away with Talmud Torah, with the Torah itself, with the Torah itself, then we're going home with the kala, and that's called that we've understood what the wedding was about. Because it wasn't a one-off day where we were blown away, which it was, but the purpose was actually to give us the Torah. And let me explain what I mean. How do we take the kala home? That's what we've got to do from Shavuos. We've got to take the kala home. We've got to take the Torah. Is our kala, we have to take her home. So that means as follows. You see, it's a very fascinating thing that on Shavuos, there's no special mitzvah besides the fact that, cheesecake, we like to get involved with cheesecake. I think we had 5 different types of cheesecake in my house over Shavuos. But that's not a mitzvah, and it's not brought down. A minhag. There's no blowing of the shofar. There's no sitting in a sukkah. There's no matzah or Seder night. Can anybody name anything specific about Shavuos? No. There's no mitzvah mandated from the Torah. And even what we do, the practice, okay, so there's a minhag to stay up and learn. Okay, fine. But there's no specific mitzvah associated with the day. Why is that the case? But I think I have an even stronger question. And I must tell you, this question bothered me. I walked around with this question bothering me for about a week and a half before Shavuos. It's one of those questions which is very strong, and you have to work hard to get the answer. Because the question is, if you go look up Shavuos in the Torah, you will find that it's called the Yom Tov of Chag HaKotzir, which means comes in the harvest time. And you'll also find that it's called Chag HaBikurim. It's in line when we bring the first fruits to the Beis Hamikdash. And it's also mentioned as the Chag, the festival, which comes after 50 days of counting. After Pesach, we count the Omer, and on the 50th day, we have Shavuos. And it's called Chag HaShavuos. But never in the Torah does it say that the Yom Tov of Shavuos is the day and the Chag celebrating the giving of the Torah. Never says that. Now we know it is, because we know that 50 days after we came out of Egypt, we received the Torah, and we know that 50 days after is Shavuos, but the Torah never put them together. The Torah never said, keep Shavuos, because Shavuos is the day that we received the Torah. Now, when we daven and we say the tefillah of Shavuos, we call it Zman Matan Torah Seinu. That's what we say in Kiddush. That's what we said throughout the day. But the Torah never calls it that. The Torah never says it's the day it's the Yom Tov of the giving of the Torah. It's not called that in the Torah. And that is very difficult to understand, since that's the whole essence of the day. The power of the day is that. Why does the Torah not call it Zman Matan Torah Seinu? We call it that. Chazal made up that expression. It's the day, and it is the day that we got the Torah, but the Torah never puts the two together. Happens to be that the 50th day coming out of Mitzrayim, out of Egypt, we got the Torah. And it happens to be that is the Yom Tov of Shavuos, but the Torah never calls it the Yom Tov of the receiving of the Torah. Are you with me? You get the question? I mean, it's a very difficult question. Why does the Torah not call it the Yom Tov of the giving of the Torah? It's a good question. I don't know if anybody wants to suggest an answer. I don't know how interactive is this share.
Yeah,
I'm happy to hear. Yeah.
Good evening. Actually, I have a question, or actually maybe it's the same question but formulated differently. That in the morning blessing, when we say just after the Torah blessings, there is also it says that there are mitzvahs which we can perform in this world, and the principal rewards remains in the world to come. And one of the things that are mentioned in this, I believe that it's a text from Torah, said that there is a pilgrimage offerings brought when appearing before the Lord on 3 festivals. And that's mentioned then like Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot, isn't it?
Yeah, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah, we offer up special.
Is it from Torah where it says?
Yeah, special sacrifices that we bring on the actual Chag. It's called the Korban Chagiga and the Oilas Re'iyah, special sacrifices that are brought. And in fact, by the way, the Yom Tov of Shavuos lasts for a whole week. I'm not joking. It's called Shavuot also because it lasts for a week. Now you might say, 1 minute, isn't it over? No, it's not. Those particular sacrifices that you mentioned, if you didn't bring them on the actual Chag of Shavuos on yesterday or the day before, I should say, because yesterday was Shabbos, then you have 1 week to bring them, because the Yom Tov spills over for a week. There's an atmosphere of Shavuos for a whole week. You can even bring those korbanos, those sacrifices that you mentioned. So you shouldn't think it's all over. But question number 1 that we asked, a very strong question: why the Torah doesn't call the Yom Tov the Yom Tov of giving of the Torah? The Torah never says it. That's a difficult question. I'm going to ask another very difficult question. This is a very hard question and these, sometimes you have questions that are hard. And the next question is a very hard question to answer. We know, I have to give you a bit of background to this. The Ramban writes with Matan Torah, the giving of the Torah, our hearts and our eyes are there all the days. That's the language of the Ramban. Our hearts and eyes, the Jewish people, we're always connected to Har Sinai. Okay? And in fact, there's a mitzvah never to forget the day of the giving of the Torah. It says, remember, Pentishkach, the day you stood at Sinai. You mustn't forget it. It's one of the 6 remembrances that we have to remember. Every time we remember Maimed Har Sinai. So I'm going to ask a very strong question. Where do we mention it? Why is it not mentioned? Not in Shachris, not Mincha, not Mariv. Now, the reason why this is a strong question is Yetzias Mitzrayim, coming out of Egypt, all over the place. We have a mitzvah to say Shema in the morning and a Shema in the evening, where it mentions Mitzrayim. We have a mitzvah Pesach time. We do a whole Seder night in order to remember coming out of Egypt. So every time we make Kiddush Friday night, we speak about coming out of Egypt. And so many mitzvahs that we always speak about coming out of Egypt. You can't help but notice it all the time, every day, morning and evening. But 1 minute, the Rambam writes that even greater than coming out of Egypt was Matan Torah. The greatest event in history was not coming out of Egypt. The greatest event in history was the receiving of the Torah. So why is it not mentioned? Find me in Shacharis anywhere that we say about the receiving of the Torah at Har Sinai. Well, why don't we say? Read a little bit. By the way, it used to be originally that they read the Aseres HaDibros. And maybe you'll say to me, this could be one answer, because originally they used to read the Aseres HaDibros every morning. We read the 10 Commands, Aseres HaDibros, but the Rabbanon, the rabbis banned it. They stopped it. You know why? Because they were worried that people would say, that's the Torah, and everything else not important. So you shouldn't say that. Do not say that. So we didn't give any special, anything unique, and no special mention of Aseres HaDibros. That could be an answer, because people might misunderstand and say it's only about the Aseres HaDibros. Okay, but I mean, still, we could have mentioned a little bit of a Har Sinai. The question is very strong. It's not easy to answer that question.
Sorry, Rabbi Halberstad, but Shavuos is not essentially the festival of the giving of the Torah. It is essentially Atzeres, which is 49 days after Pesach.
Yes, exactly the point. The Torah only, exactly, you're right. The Torah only calls it the day which is Atzeres, Bikurim, 50 days after Pesach, but it happens to be the day of the giving of the Torah. Why wouldn't, and we call it in davening, we say Ziman Matan Torah Seinu, the day Hashem gave us the Torah. And we stay up all night the day Hashem gave us the Torah. And it's the greatest gift that we have. So why doesn't it say that in the Torah? Why does the Torah not say, this is the day, the Shavuos is the day of the celebration of the Torah? Everybody agrees, there's no doubt, that the 50th day was the day of the giving of the Torah, or that's 51st, but either way, right, Shavuos is the same day as Kabbalah Torah. That we understand, but why is Shavuos in the Torah not called the Yom Tov of the giving of the Torah? Which is exactly what we're asking. That's a very hard question to answer. Why does the Torah not do that? I mean, it's a strong question. So I've added to that question by saying, and what's even more surprising is that we don't mention the giving of the Torah on a regular basis like we do Yetzias Mitzrayim, yet it's also one of the 6 mitzvahs that we have to always remember. The coming, our hearts and minds should be at Har Sinai at all times. So why does it not get a mention? One liner in the middle of Shachris. You know how long Shachris is? Nowadays, Baruch Hashem, I don't know about you, but there's been one tremendous upside to this whole difficult period that we've all been through. And the one tremendous upside, I mean, maybe others, but I found a new friend called the Siddur. I found a new friend called the Siddur. I've realized I could daven at my own pace. I don't have to be rushed, and there's something to that. And again, of course, we don't ask for difficult times, etc. But we have to always look for what have we grown and what have we gained. And yet, Shachris Shachris can take a while if you take your time. And find me the phrase about Har Sinai. Not easy to find. The maximum you'll find, by the way, is that it says in Shema, Asher Anochi Mitzavcha Hayoim, and the word Hayoim can allude to, is a remez to the giving of the Torah. That's about as much you're going to find. But that's not open. So the question is very strong. So why does Shavuos not mention in the Torah as the day of Matan Torah, and why is it not mentioned in the Siddur on a regular basis? And I'm going to tell you the Kli Yakar, and maybe we could use this Kli Yakar to answer, because the Kli Yakar only answers one of the questions, and I think it might answer the other. And that is this. The Kli Yakar writes, the reason why the Torah does not call Shavuos the Yom Tov of giving of the Torah is because then you're going to make a mistake. You're going to say that, you know what, there was one day a year which is called the Day of Torah. Torah Day. Torah Day is Shavuos. Matan Torah, the day of the giving of the Torah. That's a mistake. Every single day of the year is Torah Day. Every single day of the year is Matan Torah. Every single day of the year, you have the ability to access the Torah, and it's not unique to one day of the year. And therefore, the Torah does not say this is the Yom Tov of the giving of the Torah, because then you might say, good, so there's one day a year where we really give special focus to the Torah, and the rest of the year is not as important. Perhaps you give an example, right? Imagine a guy, he's he wakes up in the cold winter, it's middle of December, and he thinks to himself, I wonder if I should, I want to get up, but it's nice and warm here, and should I get up and learn today? Should I take Torah seriously today? He's like, why? Why should I take Torah seriously? It's not Shavuos today, not the day they give me the Torah. I'll have another hour's sleep. No. So we must never make that mistake. Every day is the day of the giving of the Torah. And that's why the Torah says the Kli Yakar. That's why the Torah doesn't say a special mention. This is the day of the giving of the Torah, because otherwise you'll make that mistake. And you'll think that there's only one day a year that's special for the giving of the Torah. Every day is just as unique. Which means something unbelievable. And it links into what we said. The wedding day, what's the wedding? Yeah, Matan Torah is the day of the wedding. But it means, it's not like, okay, now that you're married, so how many days of the year are you now married after you get married? You're married every day. Every day you're married. So to walk home with a color means you have the Torah every day. The reason why we don't have something special, a mitzvah, that is unique to the Yom Tov, is because we have the Torah itself. And in fact, it's not even unique to that day. Every single day we have the Torah. The wedding day was, Hashem said, I've got a wedding gift for you. My wedding gift is, this is the Torah. Now, it's not just a one-off. Every single day we have the Torah. And that is so important, because now we understand why we don't actually make a special fuss about Matan Torah. And here's the punchline. You know why? Because every time you open a Chumash, a Gemara, a Sefer, and you learn, that is re-accessing Har Sinai. On some small level, you are now connecting to Har Sinai. Why does the Siddur not speak about the fact that we said the Shacharis? Make a mention of Har Sinai. You know why? Because every time you open a Sefer, you are connecting to Har Sinai. Har Sinai means what? That the giving of the Torah, that there was an event? No, that you have the Torah right here, that you have it. That's the purpose of Har Sinai, is to be married. It's like if a guy gets up, now it's obviously you should celebrate your wedding anniversary. That obviously is a good thing to do. But if a person says, one day a year, you know what? I'm happy to be married. One day a year he says, I'm happy to be married. You've missed the whole point of marriage. Every day of the year you should get up and say how happy you are to be married. And we're married to the Torah. Every time we sit down to breakfast with your wife, your husband, you're expressing your marriage. Every time you open a sefer, you open a book, you're expressing Har Sinai. This is the marriage. We're married to the books. We're married to the books. As I heard from Rabbi Yitzchak Berkovitz said, there's no other nation that dances with their books. In Simchas Torah, we take the books, we dance with the books. Our book, we're married to the Torah. And therefore, we don't say, one day a year, let's make a fuss about it. Every day of the year, we access the Torah itself. And therefore, that will explain, number one, why Shavuos is not mentioned as the day of the giving of the Torah, because then you might think it's only one day a year that's special about Torah. Every day is special. Why we don't make a special fuss about it in davening? Because we live with it. You don't have. Let's try and say it this way. On Sukkot, you need to remember the Ananei HaKavod. Remember the fact that when we came out of Egypt, remember that Hashem housed us in huts, in a sukkah. And you need to remember that on Pesach, we came out with matzah on our back. You need to remember that. You don't need to remember Har Sinai when Har Sinai is sitting in front of you every single day. You open a sefer, there's nothing to remember. It's there. You're living with it. You're married. You're married to the Torah. And therefore, there's nothing to remember. It's here. This is the power of Torah. And therefore, it's incumbent upon us. You want to know, what did they do after the Matan Torah? We asked, was it like an anticlimax? What would love that wedding again? Of course, they would love that experience again. But now you get on with marriage. We've got the Torah. Let's open the Sefer. Let's learn. And therefore, this is, if you want to know how do we continue, what next after Matan Torah? What next? What next? Now you put the marriage into action. Now you open the books. You start learning something. So this is the real message of Isru Chag. Perhaps the most important day of Kabbalah Torah, of receiving the Torah, is the day after. The day after Shavuos, right? It's the day after the wedding. Are you a good husband then? A good wife then? That's gonna, that's when it begins to see, are you going to put it into practice? So that being the case, I wanted to discuss with you, taking it further. Let's see, in the eyes of the Rambam, in the eyes of the Chinuch, what is this mitzvah of Talmud Torah, and what can we do and what can we achieve in the learning of Torah? It's obviously one of the 613 mitzvahs, but we know it's Keneged Kulam. It's greater than any of them. Just being in this shir now, listening to this Torah, is worth more than any other mitzvah that you could possibly do. That's what we're told. Talmud Torah Keneged Kulam. So, with your permission, I would like to read a couple of things with you, learn a couple of things about Talmud Torah, which is very beautiful, very enlightening, and the perfect way to continue from Shavuos. So, I want to first read to you the language of the Sefer Chinuch. The Sefer Chinuch, he writes in Mitzvah Tov Yud Tes, which is he has a certain order. The different Mefarshim have different orders of their mitzvahs. The Rambam has his order of the 613 mitzvahs. The Sefer Chinuch has his. The Rambam's mitzvah, in his mitzvah, it's number 11. In the Chinuch's mitzvah, it's number 419. By the way, what's the Chinuch's order? The order of the Chinuch is according to the Parshiyos, according to the Parsha of the Torah, right? So that's how the Chinuch goes. The Rambam doesn't go according to the order of the Parshas of the Torah. He has his own order as to his 613. But says the Chinuch, and then we'll read the Rambam. Mitzvahs are say, Lilmoid, listen to the expression, and the Rambam says the same idea. Mitzvahs are say, it's a mitzvah min HaTorah, Lilmoid chochmas HaTorah ulelamda, to learn the wisdom of the Torah and to teach it. Puts it together straight away. The Rambam says a similar expression. He says, Mitzvah Yud Aleph, the 11th mitzvah. He should tzivonu lilmod Torah, the mitzvah to learn the Torah, ulelamda, and to teach. The Zohar Nikra Talmud Torah, that's called Talmud Torah. Meaning, what's the definition of Talmud Torah? You ask anybody in the street, what's the mitzvah of Talmud Torah? I would assume they're probably going to answer you, learning Torah. What's Talmud Torah? Learning Torah? Not correct. The Rambam says, what's the mitzvah of Talmud Torah? Learning, lilmod Torah ulelamda, learning and teaching. And that's what the Chinuch said as well. The real mitzvah is to learn and to teach. Now, one second. Does that mean that it certainly means if you never teach something, and if I'm not a teacher of Torah, am I not learning Torah properly? Or what about if I'm Rabbi Yashiv and I know so much Torah, there's no way I could teach the amount that I know. So if I learned something, I never taught it, so I didn't get the mitzvah. So it's a very important point. You have to learn Torah willing and ready and wanting to teach someone else. It doesn't mean that you have to teach everything, because maybe some people are so brilliant that you can't teach everything. I think they once said about the Arizal. The Arizal, in his sleep, he would learn more in his sleep that we could probably learn in an entire lifetime. So the Arizal, the great Kabbalist, there's no way he could have taught everything that he knew. He couldn't. He revealed a lot, and he taught a lot, but he couldn't teach everything he knew. So what does that mean? The rest of it wasn't Torah? No, it means you have to learn wanting to teach. The mitzvah is to learn and to teach. And what about if I'm not a teacher? But you should want to teach. Firstly, if you're a parent or a grandparent, you're also a teacher, because you teach it to your children, you teach it to your grandchildren. That's a mitzvah. So, but it's more than that. And this is a beautiful idea that I heard from Mori Rebbe of Moshe Shapiro Zatzal. He explained the essence of Torah is teaching Har Sinai. It's beautiful with what we said. It links in perfectly. Talmud Torah is not just I'm learning Torah. I'm re-experiencing Har Sinai. And there's a mitzvah to give over Har Sinai to the next generation. So you learn Torah and you teach Torah. You experience Har Sinai and you give over Har Sinai. And this is part of the mitzvah of Talmud Torah, to learn Torah and to teach. It's all about re-experiencing Har Sinai. Now, listen to this. So the mitzvah is to learn and to teach. This is, I'm reading once again the Sefer Chinuch. Al-Kivna Emes. You have to teach it to your children. Your students are like your sons, your children. And we see that the Torah is called V'shinantam Levanecha, teaching it to your children. That's what Torah is about. Every student has to be like your child. You have to see your student like your child, because Torah is a father-child relationship. Even if you're not the biological father, but by virtue of you teaching Torah, you're like a father. And we know this. This is not just an idea. It's actually a halacha that the father, it's a halacha that if there's two people that are chas v'sholem lo aleinu, drowning at sea and they need to be saved, who comes first? The father or the Rebbe? So they're both very important. The Torah speaks about honoring parents in the highest way, but the Torah says that honoring your Rebbe is even higher than your father. By the way, if your father is also your Rebbe, is also your teacher, then obviously then you save the father, because he's your Rebbe. But a Rebbe is even higher. You save the Rebbe, because the Rebbe, your parents brought you into this world, and your Rebbe teacher brings you to the next world. That's even higher. The teacher is like your father, and it's very important that us as mechanchim, i.e. teachers, have to see themselves not just doing a job. You don't go to work and say, well, what should I do? Okay, I'll be a teacher because it's nice. You teach because you want to be like a father who teaches the child. It's not something you're doing as a profession. You don't go into chinuch as a profession. If you go into chinuch, if you go into education as a profession, then you shouldn't be teaching. It's not a job. You want a job? Much better paid jobs elsewhere. You want to teach Torah. You have a passion for teaching wisdom of Torah. You want to pass on to the next generation. You want to show them the beauty of Torah. That's the teacher we want for our children. We want the parent who says to be like a child, who's going to teach like a father. I can't help but tell you a beautiful story that I heard from Rabbi Yeshua Hartman, a chaver of mine here in London. Rabbi Yeshua Hartman wrote many Sfarim on the Maharal. He says a great story he says when he was younger, he was told off by his teacher. His teacher called him in, and his teacher gave him in the old days this was allowed, gave him a slap. And I think maybe a slap on the face even. And Rabbi Yeshua was very bothered by this. It bothered him. And he came home and he told his father that the teacher slapped me today. So, and he was very upset about it. He was very upset, i.e. the student, Rabbi Yeshua. And his father said, okay, I want to have a meeting with your Rebbe. They made a meeting, and his father met the teacher, the Rebbe, and he said to him, I'm all for teaching the children, and I'm happy for you to be strict, but why did you slap him? So the teacher said, I slapped him, I slapped him because like a father hits a child, so I also hit a child. So like a father, I also do. So listen to the answer that Rabbi Yeshua's father said, unbelievable. He said, tell me, have you ever kissed him like a child? If you can show him the love like a child, then I can hear that maybe you can slap him like a father. Now nowadays that doesn't go either because you're not allowed to obviously go anywhere near the children. But the message was very clear. You was telling me that you have a love for that child. If you love him and you'd kiss him and you feel passion for him and you would go to the end of the earth for him, then you can slap him like a father. But until such time, you shouldn't be going anywhere near. And nowadays, of course, we don't even do that, of course, and even parents don't go near because, who knows what. But the message is there, a very beautiful message. I can't resist telling you another brilliant line from a super mechanech. There was a great Rav called Reb Shlomo Freifeld. Reb Shlomo Freifeld was a brilliant, genius educator, a mechanech par excellence. And he used to say this amazing line. He would tell teachers, this is what he said, unless you're prepared to go to the end of the earth for your student, for your Talmud, and to show them love and to be there for them and do whatever you can for them, then you should be a shoichet instead. Don't be a teacher, be a shoichet. Better that you shecht chickens than shecht your Talmud. Beautiful line, amazing line. If you're not willing to go to the ends of the earth for your Talmud, and you're going to just put him down and you're just going to write him off, be a shoichet. Better you shecht chickens than shecht people. A profound and amazing line that we have to show the ahava, v'shinantam levonecha. This is Torah. You're like a father. A Rebbe is like a father to the child, to the student who's learning. And therefore, you see how the Torah puts the chashivas of chinuch, of a father-Rebbe relationship, of a love like a father to a child. So that's something very profound and very beautiful. And that's what the mitzvah is, v'shinantam levonecha, to teach your children. Now, that's one aspect. Another thing that the chinuch says, there's a lot here in the chinuch, I just want to pick out a couple of beautiful points. Another thing, listen to this. It says, Umasha Omru, it says in Pirkei Avos, the person should not say, when I have free time, then I'll learn something. I'm busy today. When I have free time, I'll learn. You should never say that. Maybe you'll never have free time. What do you mean maybe you have free time? You're never going to end up learning. We don't know what every day brings with it. Every day there's more matters that we need to tend to. And it distracts a person. Everybody knows those days where you blink and the day's gone. One thing led to the other, and where did the day go? Perhaps even today was one of those days. Unless you make time, the day's just going to get swallowed up. You have to make time. Your whole life could be that way. Running from here, there, everywhere, you've got to make time. You've got to make space for Torah. It's not like, you know what, when it sort of suits me, and when I have time, then I'll learn Torah. It doesn't work that way. Anybody does that, anybody who actually makes time and they make an effort, they make a time and they say, this is the time I'm going to have. Hashem helps the person. And a person that looks for time and wants to be able to dedicate time to learn, Hashem will take away, lighten other burdens of pressure, mundane pressures, that everyday pressures that we have. Hashem will take it away. But you're going to make the first step. You're going to make the time, and then Hashem he'll hold that space, and you'll have that time. And they'll take away other burdens from you. Listen to this beautiful language. The sheikhin besimcha, that person will dwell with joy, kol yomov, all his life, ba'olam hazeh, in this world, and it'll be good for him in the next world. And happy is the one that hears the words that I'm saying, says the chinuch. What a beautiful thing. We've got to make time. It doesn't sit back and happen. I don't know how it is with you guys, but in England, every country has its Yetzer Hara, has its ups and its downs. And I don't know, as I said, I don't know how it is in Holland, but in England, often the Yetzer Hara is just to be sort of apathy, as it's called. Complacent. Yeah, when it happens, it happens. With Torah, it's not when it happens, it happens. Otherwise, it's not going to happen. You've got to make things happen. You've got to be proactive. That's a very, very important aspect. And if you do so, then the time will be sacred. And this is what's well known and is called kavius itim la Torah, fixing time for Torah. One has to make space. There's a beautiful, I want to tell you an amazing idea that I heard from Rav Moshe Zatzal, my Rabbi, and he says, unbelievable. This is a well-known idea called kavius itim la Torah, that one has to fix a time to learn, and one has to say, this is my time, and I'm not letting go of it, and even if there's other disturbances, no, this is my time. And in fact, every day a person has to have a time that he fixes to learn and says, I can't be disturbed. Just like, for example, if you're in the bathroom, sorry to give an example, you wouldn't say, someone's at the door, there's a phone call. I'm sorry, I'm in the bathroom, I'm not available. What can I do? It's just impossible, I'm not available. So when you're learning, I'm not available. I'm just so sorry. I'm just not available. That's how it should be. A person has to block off the time. And this is called kavius itim la Torah, fixing a time for learning Torah. Where does it come from? Where's the source of this? It's so well known, and it's one of the 6 questions that we're going to get asked when we come up to Shemayim. Kavata itim la Torah. Did you fix time? Not just did you learn, did you fix time? Did you say I had a time in my day, and it doesn't say how much, I don't know, 20 minutes, 2 hours, whatever it is. But is there a time which is blocked off? That's going to be a question that we're going to be asked in the next world. But where does it come from? Where's the source? Efer katuv, as they say. Said Rabbi Rav Moshe Zatzal, a beautiful answer. Now, to know this answer, I have to give you a bit of background. There is a very famous Maharal, and the Maharal says, Shavuos related. We said Na'aseh v'nishma, that we're going to accept the Torah. Afterwards, Hashem forced us, he held the mountain over us like a barrel, right? He held us in there and said, if you accept the Torah, good, otherwise not. Fine. Now, everybody asks, why did Hashem force us to accept the Torah? We already said yes. It's like, imagine a guy proposes and she says yes, and then next minute he pulls out a gun and says, say yes right now. He just said yes. Why did Hashem force us when we just said yes? And Maharal explains a beautiful answer. He says, let's imagine Hashem would not have forced us. We said yes. Thank you very much. We said yes. And that was it. So you would come and you would think, wow, it's a good job that we, the Jewish people, said yes. Because there could have been a world with the Torah, or there could have been a world without the Torah. We went for option A, a world with the Torah. Nice of us. Very good. That's what you would have thought. Hashem says, no, I gave you an option because I wanted you to choose. But you know what? It wasn't a choice. A world without Torah is just not a world. There is no world without Torah. So Hashem forced us afterwards to show you, very good that you chose, but you should know there's no option of a world without Torah. I'm happy that you chose because that means that you get the reward as if you chose it. But it's a bit like all mitzvahs, we kept Shabbos yesterday, I hope. So why did you keep Shabbos? Oh, I chose to. I've got free will. I chose to keep Shabbos. You're right, you did choose. But Hashem says you must, because this is reality. That's what reality is about. So Hashem, we said yes to the Torah, but you shouldn't think that there could be a world with a Torah, maybe without a Torah. I force it on you, says Hashem, so that you should understand there is no world without Torah. Torah is absolute reality. The secrets of the Torah and all the ideas of the Torah, they are the underpinnings of the entire creation. And therefore we were forced so that we will realize its absolute reality. This is the Maharal and his famous pshat as to why we were forced. Says of Moshe Shapiro, beautiful. Do you know why there's not just a mitzvah to learn Torah, but to make space and to fix a time for learning? Because if you say, I'll learn where I like, maybe today I'll learn, maybe not. That's not good enough. Every day there's got to be an understanding that the Torah is an absolute reality. It's not based on the whim, the decision of that particular person. It's a reality. This is we have to have Torah. And it's not up to me, right? It's a beautiful thing and you should want to do it. But it's an absolute reality. And therefore, every day we have kavias itim Torah. You have to fix a time that's not your time to show you that that's my kofa aleim har kegigis time. That's my time, which is just special and unique. And it's nothing to do with me. It's because it's absolute reality. I don't choose when it suits me. Because if it's when it suits me, yeah, I'm the center of reality. And now it suits me, so now I'm going to learn. And later it doesn't suit me, so I'm not going to do that. No. There's got to be a time that's an absolute time. Not about whether it suits you. You're not the boss. Torah is reality. Torah is the center. That's the defining factor. And therefore, there has to be a kvias itim, a fixed time every day. A kafalem hakegigis time. Beautiful answer. Beautiful, if we think about it. And this is what the Sefer Chinuch is saying. You've got to make time. Make time every day. Time's got to be, you don't just wait to be, they say the famous Hasidic idea on this Mishnah, right? Don't say, when I have time, I'll learn. Maybe you won't have time. But actually, the Hasidic way of learning is, maybe what Hashem wants is to see you learn when you don't have time. You think, when I have time, I learn. No. Hashem wants you to learn when you don't have time. That's very beloved to him, that you make time. You didn't have time, and you still made time. That's beautiful. And that's what Hashem wants. So this is the chinuch. And that's the beautiful idea of Har Sinai and how Har Sinai impacts our lives when it comes to learning Torah. Now, another thing about learning Torah, what is the actual mitzvah of learning Torah? What are we supposed to learn? There's a lot to learn, but on the other hand, we have to do our bit. And it says in the Shulchan Aruch, in Yoredei Siman Reish Mem Vav, Kol Ish Yisrael, every Jew is obligated, Chai b'Talmud Torah, obligated to learn, whether he's poor, whether he's rich, Ben Sholem Begufay Ben Bal Yisurim, whether he's healthy, or whether he's Bal Yisurim, he's suffering. Ben Bachor Ben Zaken Gadol, whether he's young, whether he's old. Nobody gave a time, age limit to Torah. No. Even a poor man who has to knock on the doors. And then I love this one. Even a husband and has got children, in lockdown, running all over the place. No. Has to fix a time to learn something every day and every night. You have to learn something every day, every night. Now he writes in brackets here, when push comes to shove, that means you can rely, this is the opinion of Shem Baichai, that yes, there can be an idea of, if you said Shema in the morning, in the evening, that could be your Talmud Torah. But the Gemara debates whether you're even allowed to say that, because then people will say, oh, you heard it, yeah, you could do your mitzvah with that. That's what I'm going to do. Chas v'shalom. And therefore, a person has to make time every day for this. This is an important mitzvah, as we said. Now, what are you chayav to learn? So, chayav adam l'shalish limudai. A person has to split up his learning into three aspects, and the Mefarshim explain doesn't literally mean a third. It means divide it. Shlish means to divide. So, what do you divide? What should you learn? Shlish b'Torah. One is Torah shebechsav. Dahainu above esim, the 24 books of Tanakh. Shlish b'Mishnah. One is a third about Mishnah, Torah shebal peh, and its explanations. Torah shebechsav b'chlal zeh. Shlish b'Talmud. And what's the third is Yovim v'Yasker Achros Tovim Reishisai. Go into in depth understanding the meaning of Torah and comparing one Mishnah to another Mishnah, what we would call Gemara, basically. What we would call Gemara. To understand the workings and the mechanics of how the mitzvahs work and why is the halacha, in this case, asa, and this case is muta, and all these details, that is called Torah Shebal Peh, what we basically call Gemara. But I want to share with you an important Chofetz Chaim. The Mishnah Berurah, Chofetz Chaim writes in Simon Kufnun Hey in Orach Chaim, which the way to remember that is Kanei. Kufnun Hey is Kanei, to acquire. You've got to acquire Torah. So Kufnun Hey. And here it says in the Shulchan Aruch, you've got to make time to learn every day, something in the day, something in the night. And he writes like this. 1 second. Lilmaid. Chayav Adam Lilma B'Cholya in Torah Shebechsav. He quotes, like we just mentioned, Chayav to learn Torah Shebechsav, Mishnah, Gemara, Paiskim, Balabatim She'enam Loimdim. Balabatim, people who are not learning full time. Listen to what the Balabatim of the Mishnah Berurah are. Balabatim She'enam Loimdim Gimel or Daled Shoyz Biyon. Balabatim who can only learn 3 or 4 hours a day. You hear that? Balabatim who can only learn 3 or 4 hours a day. That's quite something. So you know what? They shouldn't just learn Gemara. They have to also learn, important to learn halacha. Each one according to his capability. For one person, that might be he has to learn Shulchan Aruch with the commentaries. For another person, it might be Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. And nowadays, there's no real excuses. You know, I don't understand Hebrew. Don't worry, you've got the English version. Everything's translated now. There's almost nothing that you can't go get translated. And but I don't have the translation. Don't worry, just one click online, you could probably find the translation straight away. So what's amazing, you know, nowadays, in the old days, there were people who didn't have an entire shas in their house. There were people that they only had like selected seforim that they learned from for years because they didn't have access to others. Nowadays, and you know what they did? They learned them. And by the way, when they often would borrow a sefer, they would actually borrow one and they would learn it so well because they didn't know when they'd see that sefer ever again. It's like your last chance. Who knows if you're ever going to see this book again? And nowadays, we are blessed that we have everything. There's not a single sefer that you can search for. You can get these Oitzah Chochmah CDs that you can get thousands and thousands of Sforim, thousands of books, and in any language, whatever language you speak, you're more or less going to get all the classics. It's there for us. The irony is that, you know, We have more access to more Sforim, but we find it even harder to learn. Okay, we're a weaker generation, but we have to everyone has to try and do what they can. There's shiurim online as well. We can listen to shiurim, we can have gatherings like this, learning together, which is exactly what Chazal say, by the way. Torah is niknes b'chabura. That means when you have a gathering of people learning together, that's a very powerful expression for a number of reasons. Number one, because when it's public and it's a gathering of people, there's a kedusha, there's a sanctity there. And number two, you can hear people's opinions, and discussion is very important as well. So this is another aspect of Torah, that a person should learn halacha. It's important that he should know what to do. But this leads to another point. Why are we learning? Are we learning in order to know what to do? Or are we learning because learning is a mitzvah? What do you think the answer is? Again, are we learning when we sit down to learn the laws of mezuzah? Are we learning the laws of mezuzah because we need to know how to put up a mezuzah, how to write a mezuzah, what to do? Or are we learning the laws of mezuzah because we like to learn? We're people of the book. Torah is an idea. So which one is it?
For mezuzah, that's not such a big issue. It is more, are you learning the laws of priesthood just because it's a mitzvah to learn, even though you're not a Kohen?
That's right, exactly. Korbanos, you're going to learn all of Vayikra and all the details of how to bring a korban, how to offer it up, and the blood is sprinkled. And you might say, well, the Beis Hamikdash is going to be rebuilt, right? Yeah, but you're not a Kohen. So mitzvah or not mitzvah? Of course a mitzvah. So, of course a mitzvah, but which one is it? Are we learning in order to, you can't, by the way, it has to be, you have to learn amanas lasos. That's a very important halacha. The person's learning and says, I'm learning this now, but I'm not interested in doing this mitzvah. He learns about sukkah, he's not interested in building a sukkah and having a sukkah. Then his learning is zero. Not good, but efes. If you learn and don't intend to do the mitzvah, your learning is not called learning. You get no mitzvah for it. You hear that? If a person learns about the mitzvah of tefillin and has no intention of putting on tefillin, he doesn't get a mitzvah. By the way, that's why if you ever learn Torah with a beginner to Judaism, don't learn Torah, don't learn something that he's not going to keep. Because you want the power of Torah to have an impact on the person. But if the person has no intention of keeping it, he doesn't get the mitzvah of learning. So let's learn about loving your neighbor, or learn about something that is at the moment appropriate to him. Because if he's going to learn about whatever it is, tefillin, and he's not going to put tefillin on, it's a problem. It's not called learning. Learning's got to be on condition that you're going to do it. So are we learning only in order to do? The answer to this is both is true. We learn in order to perform the mitzvahs. There's no question about it. Of course. But we also learn because there's a mitzvah to learn. And there's a beauty in learning and the wisdom of learning Torah. By the way, karbonos, people get scared of sacrifices, and I don't understand it, and it's also strange. You cannot believe how beautiful and how unbelievably deep karbonos are, and how many lessons for life. Your whole world will open up if you learn karbonos and what it means and the depth of it. Learning is profound in and of itself. We learn to do, and we learn because it's a mitzvah to learn. That's called by the Beis Halevi, the famous Nasa v'Nishma. What's the greatness of Nasa v'Nishma? Nasa will do v'Nishma and we'll keep it. We'll listen. Says the Beis Halevi, Nasa means we're going to learn Torah in order to do. I'm going to learn about mezuzah in order to put the mezuzah up. That's true, but there's more than that. And even after my mezuzah's up, and even after I might be karbonos and we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, there's a nishma. There's a learning for the sake of learning. That's also a mitzvah, and that's also what we want to do. Nasa v'nishma. Even after the nasa, the doing, there's a nishma. There's a learning. We crave learning just for the sake of learning. But don't get me wrong. We crave learning for the sake of learning. But if you learn one page for the whole of your life, you're missing out. There's a whole beautiful garden out there. There's an entire gamut of Torah to learn. There's so much to learn. And there's a mitzvah to learn as much as we possibly can. So there's a mitzvah to learn, and there's a mitzvah to do, and there's a mitzvah to actually know what we're learning as well. And there's a mitzvah intrinsically in everything that you learn, but there's also a mitzvah, there's so much to learn. And so much of it is beautiful. Everything's beautiful, but so much of it is something that we have resonate. So some people prefer learning, let's say, halacha. They enjoy the legal aspects more. Another person will enjoy the philosophy more, or the machshava, or the chasidus, or the musa, or the Torah is so rich that a person finds himself more in every place. But you've got to learn everything. Everything's got to be learned. You can't say, I don't do halacha. It doesn't matter what you are. You have to learn. Learning is exactly what feeds us. And this is what a neshama. There's no greater shidduch in the world than a Jewish neshama with the Torah. That's the best shidduch in the world, the best connection, the best marriage. And this is what we've been learning. I mean, there's so much, obviously, the laws of Talmud Torah go on, and there's so much to speak about, but let's just make a brief summary of what we've spoken about today. But there's no better day of doing it than today. I thought to myself, they asked me to speak the day after Shavuos, Shkoyach, day after Shavuos, like the day before Shavuos, the build up Shavuos, that's the day to speak about it, the day before, I'm 49 days before, they asked me to speak the day after Shavuos, that's like, what kind of a slot is that? How am I going to speak? What am I going to speak about there? On the contrary, this is where the marriage begins, because we learned that the giving of the Torah is the wedding day. But the point is, you've got to take the color home. You've got to take the bride home. So the beginning of the marriage is today. We've got to, from henceforth, set our program. We've got to take Torah more seriously. And as we expressed and as we explained, there's no mention in the Torah. Shavuos doesn't say it's a Yom Tov of the giving of the Torah. It doesn't say that in the Torah. And as we explained, because every day there's an aspect of giving of the Torah. Every day is Har Sinai. Open up a sefer and it's Matan Torah once again. It's the giving of the Torah revisited. It's Mount Sinai revisited. That's what it is. The great power of Har Sinai is contained in every sefer. That's why on Shavuos we don't do anything special and unique. We don't need the shofar. We don't need the matzah. We don't need the lulav. Because we've got the sefer, we've got the Torah in front of us. We don't need to remember something in the past. We're living it in the present. And that's why also, perhaps, why we don't mention it in davening about remembering Har Sinai, because every time you open a book, we're remembering Har Sinai. We're reliving Har Sinai. That's what Torah is. Torah is to learn Torah and to teach Torah, to pass over Torah, the Maimed Har Sinai, to give over the experience. And we saw some of the halachas of the Talmud Torah, just like in Har Sinai, we were forced to receive the Torah. Kavias itim, we have to make time. Torah is not just when we feel like it. We've got to make time for learning Torah. That's the beautiful language that we saw of the chinuch. The beautiful language that if a person does so, he gets rewarded, and the reward is HaKadosh Baruch Hu, you've made time. Hashem will respect that time, and other worries and things that are on your head will actually make space for the new time that you've made. But you've got to make that time. And that's the beauty of Torah. We've seen that you're supposed to learn Tanakh and Mishnah and Gemara. There's so much to learn. And a person has to learn, if he doesn't have much time, you should also learn Halakha to know what to do. But Torah is not just about learning what to do, but the experience of learning in and of itself is also a great mitzvah. And this is the color that we've walked home with. This is what it's all about. So actually, perhaps we could even say the most important day is the day after Matan Torah. Because the proof of the pudding is in the eating. The proof of the wedding is what you do after the wedding. Having a wonderful, expensive wedding with everything possible, and the marriage is rotten to the core, is a total waste of time. The wedding is only there as a celebration of what? Of the marriage that's coming next. And we are married to Hashem. And the books of the Torah and our learning of the Torah is where we express our marriage. That's exactly the day after Shavuos, is the day that shows Hashem the direction that we're taking. And that's exactly where we should be going. May we be zoicha, may we merit that you should continue learning together. Beautiful to see such a Kiddush Hashem, Ashreichem. Well done to everybody, all the organizers. It's not easy to arrange day in, day out, but it's a wonderful, wonderful thing to see. You are truly living the marriage of Hashem with the Sefer Torah, of the books of the Torah and the Talmud Torah that's taking place. It's truly a wonderful wedding, and much more than a wonderful wedding, a wonderful marriage. Thank you for having me.
Rabbi Halberstad, thank you very much. It was very interested, very excited, and we hope to get you in the future another time.
Thank you very much for having me. Chazak u'baruch, as they say. Kol hakavod to
you.
everybody. Shkoyach.
Thank you very much, and
Thank you so
sei
much.
gesund.
Yeah.
I'm sorry I didn't take questions at the end. I don't know because
Yes, I had a
yes.
question.
Yeah, please.
I had a question for myself, but I had an answer. So, when the Jewish people leave Egypt, did they know that they received the Ten Commandments, the Torah, or did they know before?
Did they know that they were going to receive? I mean, 50 days later they received the Torah.
Yes,
50
yes, but did they know before?
They knew that they were on a journey to receive the Torah. Yes, Moshe
Okay.
Rabbeinu was already told beforehand that you're going to receive the Torah, and we can assume that he told them what the course of action. So yeah, Baruch Hashem, it's a very good question actually. Did they know beforehand? It doesn't say explicitly, but we can assume that Moshe Rabbeinu told them. He certainly knew Tavdan Salakim Baharazeh. So they knew that those 50 days were building up to the giving of the Torah.
Yeah. Oh, I think it's just about it because they started and they ran away, so they probably didn't expect what was going on. So
I think they realized when they came out of Egypt that they were ready. They were ready for. They'd already been taken out of this world. Incredible elevated levels that they received.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, they had a part of the not the Torah, but they had a part of the rules before they leave.
They were given some of the Torah beforehand. Yeah, they were given some mitzvahs beforehand. That's absolutely correct. Yes, yes.
Thank you so
All
much.
right.
I'm Ellie from Maastricht, and I hope that I can see you one time in Maastricht. You're welcome always.
Thank you very, very much. Very kind of you. Thank you everybody for having me.
Yeah, I was very impressed, really. Thank you.
Thank you, thank you. Everyone should be well, healthy, and enjoy Torah.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Shkoyach.
Thank you.
Okay.
Good work, Rav. Good work.
Good work. Good. Good.